So I know we are all busy, right? We all are struggling with, living in quarantine, living in lockdown, having to teach our kids while work and keep the house maintained and somehow keep our sanity together. But this conversation has been kind of going on in the background in my life, well, for about 5 years. As I'm sure you guessed from the title, that conversation is about adoption. The fact is, since we adopted 6 years ago, our understanding of adoption has changed quite a bit. It's improved, and it's definitely evolved. And I want to talk about some of the new things that I'm starting to understand about what adoption is really all about.
You're watching out for Daddy. Hey, that's my dad!
So I've just dropped off Liam, and Julie's just dropped off Eli at school. They're doing school on alternate days, which is great because we do get a little bit of time just to get some work done. But while they're gone, I still have to do like all the housework and laundry and stuff, so I'm going to do that now. While I do the laundry though, I need to give you a heads up that this conversation won't be very comfortable, especially if you have adopted already, but it is important. So stick with me. It's going to be okay. We can get through it together. Okay, time to do some studying, but before I do that, I want to tell you a story that I was recently told by a friend of mine. He recently found out that his father was adopted. And actually, his father only found out recently too, like only in his old age did he actually find out that he was adopted. What I found interesting about this whole story was that even though my friend wasn't adopted himself, just finding out that his father was adopted had created quite a bit of turmoil in the family and with himself. All of a sudden he had these questions of like, where do we come from? Who are my family? Do I have a biological grandfather or grandparents out there somewhere? Do I have aunts and uncles and cousins that I don't know about? Look, the reason why I wanted to start the video by telling that story is because I wanted to make it clear that adoption is traumatic, and it's messy, and it's complicated, and it's nuanced. And we have to think critically about how we can do adoption better and whether or not we should be doing adoption at all. Now, you see, I told you that if you were an adopted parent, right now, you're probably feeling a little bit uncomfortable with this conversation. Trust me, as an adoptive parent, I am not feeling very comfortable with the conversation, but we have to do it because adoption is so difficult and messy and traumatic. Are you okay with going along with me and having this conversation, even though it's going to be a bit tough? I'm sure you are. The fact that you're watching this video probably means you want to have this conversation, right? Okay, but I have to start studying now. Okay, studying's done for now. And I want to show you one other thing that is also taking up a lot of my time. I'm converting this space. This used to be our shared storage space. You can see it's very untidy, it's kind of messy, but the thing is I'm converting that space into a little office for myself. So over there's going to be shelves, I'm going to put a table over there, maybe some soundproofing on this wall. I'm definitely changing the color of the paint here because that's way too dark. So right now I have to stop what I'm doing to go and pick up the metal shelves that are going to go against the one wall so that we can actually have space to pack away most of our storage stuff. Okay, got the shelves. And what's really cool is that they were made locally by a small business, so it feels kind of good that my little DIY project is also in a small, tiny way supporting local businesses. If you can, you should. Okay, so back to this really difficult conversation about adoption, and really the question that I've been struggling with and grappling with is adoption a good thing? Now, for most of you might think that it's an obvious answer, right? You have a kid who needs a home and a family. You have a family who wants to look after a kid. Put those two together, boom, 2 problems solved. You've killed 2 birds with 1 stone. But unfortunately, like most things in life, that answer is really simplistic and doesn't look at the whole picture. And actually thinking like that can sometimes cause more harm than good. Because when you think that, what you're actually kind of implying is that it's a good idea to take a child away from his community, away from his extended family, away from his history, and away from everything that should inform his or her identity, and put him into a place where all those things are missing, and where more than likely he is going to be the only person who looks the way he looks, and in a space where he's going to be struggling with his identity for the rest of his life. Now, when I say it like that, does adoption sound like a good thing? You see what I mean? It's complicated, and again, I want to say, if you're an adoptive parent, I understand why you're feeling uncomfortable and maybe even angry with this video right now, but stick with me. These are conversations that we have to have. And right now, this is probably a good point to make it clear that I don't think that everyone who has adopted a child is a bad person, or has done it for selfish reasons, or has even done it unthinkingly without looking at the bigger picture. There are a lot of very wise and thoughtful people in the adoption community, and you might be one of them. But if you are one of those people, you probably know that these conversations are important, and you're probably not the people who are angry right now. So if you are kind of upset by what I've just said and what I've just asked, you really need to ask yourself, why? Okay, but before I get on to the next point of this conversation, it's actually time to pick up the boys. And then I have to do more work, then I have to do more studying, and then I have to do some other stuff for Aphrodite, and then I have to do some more DIY stuff for the shed. My life is a bit of a mess. Okay, quick change of plans. Julie has decided that she actually has a bit of time to pick up the boys, so I've got some space to talk to you about this before they come home and I have to make them lunch. Here's the thing. If you listen to adult adoptees, and if you listen to people who work in supporting families, a lot of the stuff that they're saying makes it clear that adoption isn't really the best way to support families. And when you think about it, that makes sense, right? We see all these fantastic stories of people who were adopted into these great families and how adoptive parents are so heroic and fabulous people who are really changing the lives of these kids. And that is not the full picture. Because you have to ask yourself, who is telling those stories? Who writes the story of the blind side? Is it the adult adoptee? Is it the person whose child was removed from them or who had to relinquish their child to other authorities or to another family? No, it's not those people. It's the adoptive parents who write those stories. So no wonder why they're going to be like the protagonists of the story. We all do that. When we write our own story, we make ourselves the center and we make ourselves the protagonists. That's just human nature. But that means that for the rest of us, we have to be super careful about what stories we're reading and who are the people telling it. Look, you might be thinking, oh man, this is like too high level thinking and it's way too confusing and complicated. Can't we just be happy that kids are with families that love them and care for them? And in one sense, yes, we can be happy, but that is a very first level, okay? It's very surface level, and we're not going deeper into a lot of the issues that truly affect these children. So if adoption is the easy way of supporting families, what are the other options? What are the other things we could be doing to reshape our thinking about how we support families and how we should be thinking about adoption? The first way is by listening to adult adoptees. And that should be obvious, right? The idea that we should be listening to the people that have gone through this experience. But you'd be surprised as to how many people push back against this, right? We want to listen to the adoptive parents. We want to listen to the social workers and to the psychologists and to the people who want to make a bit of money writing these books. But we want to really not listen to the adult adoptees who are telling us the hard truths of their experience. Truths that we might not want to hear, like my parents used to say this thing that they thought made me feel better, but actually made me feel worse. Or my parents would do this thing that made me feel really alone and isolated from people that look and act like me. Or my parents thought that they were doing a good thing, but actually I feel detached from my history. Actually, I feel like I am alone. And they could have done better if they had listened and they had thought about it a bit more. Those are hard truths that a lot of adult adoptees around the world are saying, and we don't want to listen to that because it's scary, because it makes us feel bad. And to help you with that, I'm going to put some links in the description below to get you started. There are not a lot of adult adoptees in South Africa doing this, and if you are an adult adoptee, you don't owe us anything. You don't have to do it. But if you can, if you have the mental energy and the space and the ability to tell us your story, tell us the things that made you feel included, tell us the things that didn't work, that did work, that would be really helpful to me as an adoptive parent. But again, you don't owe me anything. What can we do to help support marginalized and struggling families in this country so that their children don't have to be taken away? And that their children don't have to be put with another family, where that last terrible resort isn't the thing that we go to. So answering the question, is adoption bad? No, I don't think it is. But when it's done in a society where all those other things are not done, where we aren't trying to support families, where we aren't trying to help them care for their children themselves, and instead of doing all of that work, we do the easy thing of just taking their children away and giving them to another family, then adoption is a bad thing. And a big part of supporting families is also acknowledging that the children aren't the only people who are important. Just because there's this little baby that needs care and love doesn't mean that the adults who are in difficult situations don't need care and love as well. We need to stop thinking about just how can we care for this one little tiny bubba who's very cute and adorable and easy to care for, and move our thinking into a bigger picture. How do we care for families, and how do we care for communities in a way where they are not in a situation where they have to either willingly or unwillingly give their child away? Yes, that is harder to do. That is so much harder to do, and it's a lot less selfish to do. Trust me, I know that. But if we want to be people who are changing our society, if we want to actually do right by the children of our city and of our country, we have to be thinking about this. Okay, I'm getting super passionate, which is great, but my children have just arrived, which means it's time for me to make lunch and I have to get back to work. So I'm gonna come back and chat to you a little bit later. Okay, so yesterday afternoon kind of got away from me with work and studying and kids and webinars and Twitter chats and all the sorts of stuff that happened yesterday, which is why I didn't finish this video. One of the things I did last night was do more work on my shed/office thing. So let me show you what I did. So basically I managed to move some stuff around, did a second coat of paint on that wall, and painted this wall this lovely gray color. So what is the final big point of all of this? Like, why am I making this video in the first place? And I think the answer to that is actually two parts. Number one is, if you are an adoptive parent or thinking of becoming an adoptive parent, I want you to be encouraged to spend more time listening to adult adoptees. And actually I want to encourage myself to do the same thing. And then the second thing I want us to be thinking about is, how do we support families better? If we're saying that adoption is like the crappiest option out of all of it, like taking a child away from his home and away from his culture and away from his family is like the worst option, what are the better options? What else can we be doing? How can we as individuals support communities and families that are struggling? Now, of course, how that actually plays out for you as an individual is completely dependent on your situation. You know, how much time do you have? How much resources do you have? How educated are you in this kind of work? For me personally, that means supporting organizations that are doing the work. So kind of going, hey, there are experts that do this well, that have thought this through, that are trained and educated in this work, so let me support them and help them do the work better. One of those organizations is called Arise. I'll put a link to their website below. If you've kind of been in the family support adoption circles for a while, you probably would recognize them. The great thing about Arise is that even though they do offer support and training for adoptive families, that's just like one aspect of the work they do. They really are focused on offering support for families, especially those from marginalized communities. So definitely check them out. I do want to make it clear though that this video is not endorsed by Arise in any way, shape or form. This is all my own thoughts and opinions. But if you are from Arise and you're watching this, hey guys, how's it going? Please give me some feedback. How can I improve my thinking? What else do I need to be reading or thinking about or changing about my opinions when it comes to supporting families and adoption? You guys know where to get hold of me. Ultimately, if you are trying to be a better parent to your adoptive child, or if you are trying to support families beyond just taking their child away when they can't care for that child, then I think Arise is a good place to start. Seriously, the people at work, they have really informed my thinking around family support and adoption. So they do good work and they are worth supporting. Okay, I have said a lot of things over the last 2 days, and some of it may have offended you or really put you on edge or made you feel very uncomfortable. I really do want to talk about those things, and I don't think we can improve our thinking if we don't have these conversations. So please leave a comment, send me a DM, we can talk about it, and let's see where those conversations go. Thank you so much for watching this video and engaging in this conversation. Please remember to subscribe to the website afrodaddyonline.com. That's where you can get all the newest and freshest and bestest Afro Daddy content in the world. It's where everything is. Thank you so much for watching. We'll catch you soon. Afro Daddy out.
You're watching Adoptees. Hey, that's my dad.